Hi everyone, Mel here, and hope you're all doing well. So today I'm making a video talking about one thing that keeps us tied to a borderline partner. If you feel like you just can't let go of your borderline partner, you've been in and out of a relationship with someone that you think has borderline traits, and you just can't find yourself leaving them. There's often this one thing that keeps us tied to someone who is borderline for a long period of time, and that's a form of emotional Stockholm Syndrome. When it comes to relationships, we can often form this emotional Stockholm Syndrome with our captor, that is the abusive partner. Stockholm Syndrome is what keeps us tied to our captors. Similarly, in a relationship with someone with borderline personality disorder, can often feel like we are stuck in this relationship because we have this need to find peace, to find resolution, and to make it work with this person who is ultimately abusing us. This typically happens in a codependent relationship, regardless of whether someone has BPD or even borderline traits. But it is very fitting, if you're going out with someone who is borderline or has borderline traits, to often feel like you're still in this relationship because you've had a glimpse of them at their best and you want it to go back to how it used to be. And that's something that we can all relate to. We've all been in relationships where it started out great. Maybe you have nostalgia for how it used to be and a desire to want to go back there. The thing about dating someone who's borderline is that it's quite extreme. It's two different people, it's like we're seeing. I did make a video earlier about the Jekyll and Hyde sides of the borderline person. Another interesting metaphor is to see them as the angel and the devil that's split. Now, for anyone who's ever dated someone who's borderline, you might resonate with this. I found them to be quite angelic. My ex-boyfriend, he had very much a baby face, big blue eyes, and just this look of innocence about him. And that was one of the hooks with him. It was my own need to want to look after and nurture. I own that within myself, the caretaker personality within me. However, there's something about a borderline person who just exudes at moments, times of just pure innocence. And it can be almost like a spiritual experience, just watching them in their moments when they're just being like a pure innocent child in this adult body and interacting with the world in awe and wonder that you rarely find with adults, normally of young children. It's quite compelling and moving to witness that, and that's what made me, it's what brought out in me the need to nurture, to look after, and want to protect this side of him. And then they would just switch into something was hardly angelic, quite monstrous. Yeah, the demon side of someone who's borderline. It's too much. It's too much to think. How can someone be so on the one hand, so pure and innocent and lovely and caring, and then just switch to someone who's just downright vicious and nasty and just so attacking and so different, so different. Wow, and they just feel like very different people, two separate people. This is what it's like for the borderline person. It's within themselves. The reason why it feels like they're a separate angel and a separate devil is because they haven't integrated their own inner devil and their own inner angel. They haven't integrated the light and the dark. They're still stuck in this infantile stage of development in which is either good or there's evil, is either light or there's dark, and they need to be pure and they need to behave a certain way, and all the shame that comes with not being perfect, not reaching as the bar that they want to reach. I mean, I'm not borderline, but spending time with people who are borderline, I can see the suffering that they feel at not being able to deal with all the shame they hold inside. It seems like all of them hold a lot of inner shame. They want someone to help rescue them. They can't see themselves as ever being bad. They can't handle any shadow self-work, to look into the mirror and see the parts of themselves that they don't like. It's terrifying for them. It's like the threat of annihilation. They can't handle that. So what happens is that you often find with borderline women, they have an obsession for Disney. I don't get it. Even as a kid, I thought Disney was bullshit. I'm sorry. I was not one for Disney princesses. Not judging those who do. It's children. Why not? I was more into the animal Disneys, I guess, to be fair, like The Lion King. But I digress. You will find a lot of adult women are just so passionate about being a Disney princess. And it's like wanting to reclaim perhaps a sense of that purity and innocence from childhood and this idealization of what it is to be a princess and to life is all rainbows and soft fluffy cloud. But regardless, you will find some women who want to desperately be princesses. And for me, I interpret this, I'm not saying this is true for everyone, this is just my interpretation, that they want to be this figure of just innocence and purity, and everything's happily ever after again. They'll get rescued and everything's perfect again. And, life isn't like that. And I also saw that with my ex. He wasn't into Disney princesses. It was into death metal and tattooing. But I saw the endless need for want to purify himself, which was expressed in his eating habits. He would slip between wanting to be vegan and then be raw vegan, and probably sure be breatharian at the next stage, who the hell knows. But he would just swing and pendulate to impulsivity, and for him that would be drug related, and just swinging back and forth between being really healthy vegan and then on the coke and the alcohol. So point being, you see two different people almost when it comes to people with borderline personality disorder. For someone who's not familiar with it, it can even seem like they're split personality, which they're not. It's not dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. It's not the case. They don't have amnesia between the two states. They do understand these are just two different sides of themselves. The thing is, though, is that it really does feel like the two separate people to the person experiencing it, because they haven't integrated these two sides within themselves. And often it's misdiagnosed as bipolar. I often say to patients when they trying to diagnose their partner, they think it might be bipolar. And I say, listen, how often do they change? How often are they going from the manic to the opposite? How often are they switching? Because with bipolar depression, it could be a matter of weeks when they're in the manic stage and then in a depressive stage. With someone who has borderline personality disorder, this can happen within 24 hours. That's a big sign. Someone who's bipolar doesn't switch within 24 hours. They're two different states. So how does this all tie in with emotional Stockholm Syndrome? Let me tell you, when you've glimpsed the angelic side, when you've seen their most amazing side of them, and that's their hook, they're beautiful individuals with baby faces who just exude this sense of purity and childlike innocence, and they're showing the best side. I mean, everyone does in a relationship at the first time, doesn't they? Everyone's showing their best sides when you start dating them. Problem with them is that they'll soon slide into their not so angelic, not so nice stage. And in fact, it's quite the opposite at times. And as the person dating them, it's such a shock and a bit of a mindfuck, to be honest. We naturally want to reach back for the other. We want to see the angel side again. We want to see the good side of them. And there's this desperate need to want to regain what was lost. And maybe if I just try a little harder, maybe it is me. Because they're so resolute in their stance, whether they're in the angel or devil side, they're so resolute in what they're saying and so convinced. They become convincing. And if we're not sure, if we're the type of person to have low self-esteem and to blame ourselves, to please the other person first before making ourselves happy, it's all too easy to slip into a state of wanting to stay in this abusive relationship, wanting to make it better so that finally you can get back to how it used to be. Do you think you can ever get back to where it used to be, though? How long has this been going on for? The thing about dating someone long-term who has BPD, or even just borderline traits, it's often they will use you as a way to get better. And it's not fair on the partner. Someone who's borderline desperately needs to see a counselor, a psychiatrist even, in my opinion, because this way they can reenact the push-pull dynamics of a relationship with the counselor, the psychiatrist, and it's a safe space for them to talk about what's going on in the here and now. And you will find with people who are borderline that they come and go out of therapy much like they are with romantic relationships. They need a relationship first and foremost with a licensed and qualified professional, not with their partners, not just with their partners anyway. And it can, if we are the type who are just a bit too nice and a bit too kind and you see the best in people, it's not a bad thing, but you have to put your needs first. Are you sacrificing your own personal life? Is your health suffering? Is your mental health suffering? Are you experiencing emotional dysregulations, panic attacks, anxiety, insomnia, disease, illness as a result of dating someone who's borderline? These are all symptoms that things aren't right. You need to change something for you to feel better. Part of this is to take an honest look at the relationship and think, am I justifying being here because there are deeper forces at work keeping me here? Is this actually a form of emotional Stockholm Syndrome? Am I sacrificing my needs? Is this a pattern? Is this familiar to me? All these questions, please ask yourself, and know that if you really are struggling, if you really are suffering, you can actually get out of it. You do have the power within yourself to step back and say, no, I want to attend to my needs first. And be aware that with people who are borderline, often a lot of emotional blackmail comes with this as well. Be mindful that you are evoking a core wound for them, and this core wound is one of rejection and abandonment. So they will pull out all the stops and they won't be thinking about how messed up this is. Emotional blackmail. They won't be thinking about this. They're so desperate for your attention that they will do this. They will do this. They're in such a suffering state. I can't tell you what to do. It's one of those situations where you have to be prepared that this could happen, but know that you have a choice in any situation. You always have a choice in a relationship. No one is forcing you to be in a relationship. And if you're finding it difficult, if you want someone to speak to because it's just gotten too painful and you feel like you don't know what to do, please drop me an email. My name is Melanie. Drop me an email, mel@thegothcoach.com. I am trying to help you in these situations as I have with my other clients. And part of the reason why we stay with our abusers is because we believe the lies. Whether that's the lies that the borderline partner is so good at pointing the finger at and saying, you did this, you did that, this is all your fault. And they're so convincing in what they say. And you think, maybe they're right. Maybe it is me, because it seems like it's the easiest option to believe. When you've had someone abuse you for so long, it just becomes easier to believe and to accept what they're saying. And this also applies for people who have dated someone who's highly narcissistic, dated a narcissist, a covert narcissist, in which they've experienced abuse from their tormentor. They groom you. This is what covert narcissists do. They seek out people who they have the resource that they want, and they'll specifically pick people with lower self-esteem, maybe don't have that much confidence, and they just love bomb you, and with their charm, they will tell you exactly what you want to hear, get you wrapped around their little finger. And then when the time comes when you've been hooked and they realize you've been hooked, that's when it all changes. And that's when the abuse starts to creep in. And again, like with dating the borderline person, you think, maybe things will change. Maybe he will change. Maybe things will go back to the way they used to be. Generally, it doesn't when someone has a personality disorder, especially if they're that far gone. It's one thing with traits, but full-blown personality disorder, highly doubt you will go back to how it used to be. I mean, even just like normal functional relationships, you grow apart, things change. It's hard to go back to how it used to be. And now you're talking about dating someone who's borderline or psychopath or someone with highly narcissistic tendencies. It's where you feel like you've been abused. It's very hard to go back to the good times. In fact, it's got to get to a state where you need to put yourself first. You only have yourself in this life, okay? The more you keep giving to others, the more you're going to deplete yourself, and then you'll just be tossed to the side. Don't let it get that far. You need to put yourself first. You need to voice your needs, stand your ground. If you're having difficulty doing this, please reach out to me. My name is Melanie. Email me at mel@thegolfcoach.com. I am trained to help you in these situations. If you feel like you're stuck in an abusive relationship, know that you do have choice, even though it might not feel it at the moment. No, it might not seem like there's any points, like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There is. When you can't see the bright side, I shall sit with you in the darkness. golfcoach.com. Okay, I shall leave it there. As always, if you have any questions or any comments, please put them down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Any personal experiences, please share your thoughts. Part of recovery is reaching out and interacting with other people who have been through what you have. So it'd be awesome if people can share their experiences down below. And if you like the video, please subscribe and have a great day, everyone. Until next time, bye-bye.